Scott just made the point.
Jefferson used to be a lot more secure, not just.
Well, the 2016 primary season is nothing if not weird. Bernie Sanders has come out of nowhere and is walloping the Dowager Empress. The Dowager Empress may be campaigning from a cell block someplace in some unidentified federal prison. On the Republican side, Donald Trump has come out of nowhere, and he's running a campaign that's so unorthodox that it makes Tea Party firebrand Ted Cruz look like a Washington insider. We're going to let the Democrats hang fire for a week or two to see if Bernie picks up more delegates and Hillary more subpoenas. So today, let's bring in Steve Green and Scott Ott to take a look at the Republican horse race as it stands today. Well, lads, after a genuinely remarkable run, Donald Trump had 2 very bad weeks in a row at a time when he needs to put this game to bed, and Ted Cruz has been there to pick up the pieces. So let's just keep this simple today. As we tape this, it's virtually impossible for Cruz to win the nomination outright. I think he has to win something like 87% of the remaining delegates in order to clinch it before we go there. That's just not going to happen. Trump can do it, but he appears to be sliding. If Trump gets to the magic number, then it's him in November, and that's the end of that. But what if he doesn't? The Ted Cruz campaign is kind of like the 5th team heading into several weeks into a 4-team playoff. They're kind of on the bubble. Things have to go their way, but they're not out of it by any means. Now, in order to become president, Ted Cruz has to accomplish 3 things in order, and to fail at any one of them means it's time to go home. So first, while it's virtually impossible for him to secure the nomination before the convention, it is most certainly possible to make sure that Donald Trump comes up short of that magic number. So Ted has to continue to do well, and for once in my lifetime, California might actually make a difference in terms of who we elect as president, because Ted needs to win California. That's probably enough to get him into the convention. Second, once he's in the convention, he has to win the nomination and all of the excitement and intrigue and effort that entails. And finally, of course, he has to beat the Democrat in November. So let's take a look at each of these 3 stages. Steve, can Ted Cruz hang on long enough, do you think, to deprive Donald Trump of the delegates he needs to win it before the convention?
Yes and no. Ted Cruz, he's my preference. He has been probably since last summer. Although as he's campaigned, I've become more and more aware of his weaknesses as a campaigner and as a politician. However, he seems to be very skilled at playing the delegate game. And somebody made a great point. I can't remember who to credit this to. Somebody made a great point on Twitter. The last person who was better at navigating their party's Byzantine nomination rules is a guy we now call Mr. President. That's how Barack Obama beat Hillary Clinton, even though Hillary Clinton got about 100,000 more primary votes than Barack Obama did. But he played the game better, and Ted Cruz is showing that he's very skilled at playing these backroom delegate games. That said, it doesn't come down to Cruz. It comes down to Kasich, and I hate this guy. I
do too. Everybody does.
Hate Kasich, and part of it's a little heartbreak. In the 90s, he came across as this sort of libertarian, principled, small government Republican, and this was when he was in Congress, and he came across that same way. I think he had like a Saturday show on Fox News or something, and I really liked the guy. And then he gets himself elected governor, and he just becomes the worst combination possible. He's a Rockefeller Republican with this unearned sense of moral superiority. He just spends and lectures, and I just want to punch him with a rake. I really do. That said, after Wisconsin, the GOP race moves into the Northeast, where Ted is not going to play very well, and it's going to be up to Kasich to deny Trump a lot of these delegates to keep him from hitting that 60% threshold over these next few weeks, and then set things up for Cruz in California. So as we move into the Northeast, it's got to be Kasich. He broke my heart.
This election is so bizarre. Scott, you get the fun one, which is step 2. If Ted Cruz can hang on long enough to get an open convention trailing Donald Trump, how does he come out of there with the nomination? Because it seems to me that no matter what Steve was saying about the delegates and the backroom negotiation, what happens inside that convention is going to have to reflect what's happening outside the convention out in the country, or else there's going to be a civil war here, I think.
Well, and that's the big myth that somehow the establishment Republicans are engineering some smoke-filled room, backroom deal that will steal the nomination from somebody and give it to some completely alien person who nobody ever expected. The whole purpose of the nomination process is to find a candidate behind whom a large majority of Republicans can gather enthusiastically. And so the Republican establishment, so-called, would be cutting its own throat if it cut some special deal that somehow denied the will of the people. That would just be idiotic. They're not going to do that. If nothing else, the Republican establishment cares about winning. And frankly, sometimes I think it's nothing else that they care about. All they care about is winning and holding power. So at the very least, they're going to try to find somebody, some way, so that they have more than half of their party enthusiastic, because they got to overcome the drag of all the Democrats, plus the drag of independents, most of whom are Democrats and just don't want to call themselves that. So I think that Ted Cruz is already doing what needs to be done for that. Because if Donald Trump doesn't go in with a first ballot 1237, which is 50% plus one of the available delegates, if he doesn't go in with a first ballot win outright, Ted Cruz has already laid the groundwork, because his people are going all over in all these states and say, look, I know you're committed to Donald Trump on the first ballot. All we're asking is that you consider Ted Cruz on the second and the third and after that. And so he has already done that, which is why people say, oh, well, he got more delegates than Donald Trump in Louisiana, even though Donald Trump won the popular vote in Louisiana. Well, it's because Cruz understands it's a delegate race. It's not a popular election race. And you have to get to a majority. And so the reason why I think Cruz is going to be successful fundamentally is he knows the actual game he's playing, and Donald Trump doesn't.
That's well said. Okay, so first Ted has to get to the nomination, get to the convention. He just has to survive long enough to get to the convention and have it not be clinched by Trump. Then he has to get out of the convention with the nomination, and then, of course, it would be on to the actual show. I think Ted would beat Hillary Clinton soundly. A set of presidential debates would show just how prepared he is and how ready to take the fight to her. If Hillary is indicted, on the other hand, I think Ted beats Bernie handily, or Joe Biden, or anyone else. Everyone the Democrats have to run against Barack Obama's record. And the enthusiasm for both Trump and Sanders shows that the American people are just plenty sick of this Obama economy, this Obama political situation. They want change. That helps the Republicans. Now, the spoiler in this scenario, of course, is the third-party candidate. If denied the nomination, I'd be willing to bet an arm that Donald Trump goes at it alone, which is pretty much the end of the race. Gives it to the Democrats, unless Bernie decides to go it alone. Now, that would be something to see. A four-person presidential race, each one with huge factions of the population. That would be something. And my friends, you need to stay tuned to PJTV, because you cannot follow this game without a program. For Steve Green, Scott Ott, and the rest of the Trifecta crew, I'm Bill Whittle.